Alright, so hello everyone
Hello.
and welcome sa ating live stream this week. No? So we have some special guests today at ipapasok na natin sila sa stream. Si Sir Roy, ayan, at saka si Sir Mikko from Leechiu Property Consultants. Alright, so hello everyone. Hello sir.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes. Pleasure to meet Sir Mikko and Sir Roy.
Glad to have you on board.
Yan. So, mag-hello tayo sa mga nandito sa stream natin ngayon. No? Hello kay Mark from Pasig. Saka si August, ang ating masipag na viewer. Hello everything. Si Christian na nandito rin.
Yes. So, hello din si Melson from Singapore. So, hello.
Wow.
Nawala daw buhok ko.
Oo nga, ano nangyari sa'yo? Biglang nagpakalbo.
Init kasi, kailangan i-shave. May shave po
okay.
So, shave out namin.
So, hello din kay Christian or Hela. And we have someone from Singapore, si Melson Peros.
Yes.
Hi, Melson. Hope you're fine there in Singapore. And keep safe.
Yes.
Yeah, so Renzi, pakilala naman natin sa mga audience natin formally yung mga kasama natin dito sa live stream.
Yeah, so for this particular live stream, we've di ba? For the past weeks, we've had experts share their views and share their products. So, naisip naman namin na iba naman ang pag-usapan natin. So, of course, marami nagtatanong kung ano bang mangyayari sa real estate market kasi sarado yung malls, yung mga condos, may bumibili pa ba, etc. etc. Yung mga POGOs and BPOs ba since may lockdown. So paano na yung real estate market natin? So minarapat namin lalim no. Pero we've thought of inviting experts, okay? So these are experts from Leechiu Property Consultants. Mr. Roy Amado Golez, parang parang politician.
Pangalan lang.
Sir Roy Golez and si Mr. Mikko Barranda. Welcome to our live stream.
Yay!
Thank you. Salamat.
Yeah, by the way, si Mikko pala, just to give a brief of a background, si Mikko kasi, I've been writing for Money Sense Magazine for Real Estate Outlook for the longest time. And si Mikko ang suki ko when as regards to Real Estate Outlook, go-to person ko yan. And then, kumbaga, pag sinabi ni Mikko, what Mikko says, the real estate market makes it happen.
Kay Roy ko lang rin kinukuha.
So guys, and girls, kung meron kayong questions regarding real estate market, where best to invest, ano bang magandang tips and strategies in buying real estate, whether condo, tapos condo tells even, kasi di ba recently, may nakita tayo na ng mga ang dami nag-offer ng mga condo. So anything and everything about real estate market, I think for the past weeks may mga nagtanong din about rates, no? So ito yung mga experts natin who's here to share their views with you.
Right. But I think si Sir Mikko at si Sir Roy, they have prepared a presentation for us, no?
Tingnan muna
natin. Yeah, so hello sa 46,000 na nanonood sa atin ngayon, and I'm sure more people will join us later. And ayun, may mga nakikita na rin ako nagtatanong sa comments. But before we go to our Q&A session, so we will give Sir Mikko and Sir Roy the chance to give us their presentation. Tungkol saan ba yung i-present nyo today, Sir Mikko?
We'll go through the property market, no? So we'll talk about office, supply and demand, yung forecast namin for 2020. We'll also run through residential and at least trends that we see in the market. So there's a more complete picture after the presentation, and then we can take some questions after.
All right. Sige. So just tell us who will be sharing the presentation so that I can add it.
Cars, do you mind si Nino na lang, Nino has the file.
Mag-share, okay. Sabi ni Kethamine, akala nila bagong personnel daw, Adriel. Bagong gupit lang. Oo. lakas
Bagong gupit lang. Bagong gupit.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hindi yata
New hair,
share.
new normal kasi.
New normal. Sige. Hindi pa yata share ni ano. Ayun, wait. We will share it already. Ayan. So, habang nag-represent sila, ano muna tayo? Sa background muna tayo, Adrian at Renzi, na?
Yeah.
Alright?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sige. So, we're giving you the floor, Sir Roy and Sir Mikko.
Yeah. So, ulit, good afternoon. My name is Mikko Barranda. Thank you again for having us today and giving us this opportunity to share with you what's happening in the property market. Next. So what we'll cover would be the office market, both supply and demand, and where we believe the demand in terms of forecast would be for this year. We'll also talk about some opportunities in the market like the REITs or the real estate investment trusts. And my colleague Roy will cover the residential sector, and we'll wrap up everything in our closing remarks. Next. So in 2019, the Philippines transacted close to about 1.7 million square meters of office demand. So malaki yun. That makes us one of the largest office markets in the world. We're probably number 4 next to Shanghai, Beijing, and Japan. And however, most of the good news or everything that happened right in 2019 was overshadowed by all the challenges that we faced in the first 4 months, most especially COVID-19 and the pandemic. Next. However, even with all the bad news, we still see a lot of optimism in the market, one of which is the 9 infra projects that will be completed in the next 18 months. We've been reading the news yesterday, and DPWH Mark Villar has actually already given his sentiment that they will be starting the construction soon restarting some of the construction projects soon. What this will do is it will there's about 150 kilometers of road projects that will be built, and what it will do is will really cut traffic significantly. So what will take someone an hour to get to work will probably be cut down to 30 minutes, and it will release a lot of human capital and a lot of human productivity into the economy. Second is the IT BPO sector. As many of you know, the BPO sector is the largest employer in the Philippines today. They have 1.4 million full-time employees. And since the BPO started back in 2001, we now have 20 years track record of running BPOs in the Philippines. So as we see many of the countries globally go through recession, a lot of them will want to cut costs. And one of the solutions for them to protect their bottom line is to continue to outsource more work in places like the Philippines and India. The POGO sector, we believe after the lockdown has been lifted, they will continue again to expand and take space in the market. As we've shared also earlier when we were chatting, we have been seeing land-based POGO or land-based casinos in Europe now looking to automate or go online because of the COVID crisis. And the Philippines is now one of the options for them to expand to. Also in India, we have been hearing that some of the POGO operators there are also looking at the Philippines to now set up operations. Foreign ownership will be liberalized, more and more industries in the coming years. Multinational corporations diversify out of China. So beginning in the first quarter of 2020, when China was in lockdown, a lot of the companies there were looking for alternatives to still operate within the region. And they were looking for labor pool that can support the companies. And the POGO sector here in the Philippines, they discovered that. They discovered the labor here to be able to accommodate that type of work. And now we believe that more and more companies out of China will want to set up a business continuity program or center in Manila. And the REIT sector, we've been waiting for the REIT for the past 10 years. And in the last 12 months, most of the regulatory frameworks have now been resolved, whether it's pertaining to the taxation, whether it be the minimum public ownership. And there's a really long runway, and we believe this is an opportunity for the Philippines because we have one of the largest office and retail sectors in the world that are income generating. And it gives people options to invest not only in the stock market, but also invest in real estate assets that produce a lot of income. Next. Next. So just to deep dive into the office market, in the first quarter of 2020, we've seen 157,000 square meters of office transactions. In the last few days, we've actually been able to get wind that this number has increased to 171,000 square meters for the first 4 months of this year. So what that tells us is even with the pandemic, even with the lockdowns, there are still transactions being closed in the market. We also have visibility of another 600,000 square meters of space, or at least of companies, whether they be BPO companies, POGO companies, and traditional businesses, still looking and actively want to be able to close within the year. So given the Q1 numbers and the 600,000 that we see in the market, we believe that we will close the year at 800,000 square meters. That's still 50% lower or 45% lower than 2019 at 1.7 million. However, what the funny thing about the pandemic and the lockdown is it did not only cripple demand, but it also crippled supply. So many of the buildings or the landlords that have committed to finish their projects this year were unable to because they were during the lockdowns. No one could do any construction. No one could enter. They couldn't enter construction materials. The gateways were closed, and hence, what was supposed to be 1.5 million supply office space this year was now reduced to 800,000. So with demand at 800 and supply at 800, we believe that we will achieve equilibrium in supply and demand this year and will avoid any oversupply in the market. But again, the caveat being is how fast we can recover and get out of the lockdown. If this persists until August, then it might be also a very different picture. Next. So just quickly showing you the numbers in 2018 and 2019, the Philippine office market has been growing by leaps and bounds. We closed 1.6 million in 2018, 1.7 million in 2019. The blue represents BPO, the red represents the POGO industry, and the gray represents everyone else. What we've observed in the past 4 years, as both BPOs and POGOs grow, everyone else in the economy grows at the same pace. So we'll need these two, blue and reds, to grow to have the everyone else also continue to expand. But since we've been doing this for a long time, and in the last 8 to 10 years, the main driver of office space was purely just BPO. And today, at least, we have a more diverse basket of demand coming from all different segments. Next. Just quickly, Q1 2020 numbers are at 157, or today 170,000. And we've seen transactions not only in Metro Manila, but also in the provinces like Iloilo, Cebu, and Clark, where we've seen BPOs expand to these places. We've also seen POGOs expand to Clark at the same time. Next. Just to clearly depict what we mentioned in the previous slides, the green bar on top shows you the 2019 demand of 1.7 million square meters. The gray broken line in the middle shows you what we believe demand will be this year, which is 800,000 to 1 million square meters. The blue shows you what supply was supposed to be this year pre-COVID. So there was 1.5 million square meters of office that was supposed to enter. But now, knowing the delays because of the lockdowns, the readjusted supply numbers have reduced 2020 to 800,000 and has carried over most of the supply to 2021. So the gray bar and the orange, as you see, they meet in the middle, is really a sign that we won't be experiencing any glut in the office market this year. Next. So we just wanted to also paint you a picture of the 600,000 square meters that we had available, or at least active accounts. In the last few weeks, interesting enough, we have received close to about 50,000 square meters of office space demand. And these are coming from companies that are now preparing to get out of the lockdown, and they have to follow the social distancing rule by the DOH. So let's say for company A that has 1,000 people in one building, they will now only be able to accept 500 people since they will have to follow social distancing. And out of the 500, not everyone can work from home, and those that can't will need temporary office. So we've seen a lot of demand now for fitted, plug and play, shared spaces, co-working, looking for temporary space. Next. When we were looking at this chart back in March, we forecasted that Q2 will be 0 since we'll be in lockdown, but we're very lucky that there were still about 14,000 square meters that were transacted during the lockdown. Next. So what we're showing you here is about 14 years of data that we put together. The blue represents demand all the way back from 2006 to 2019. The red shows you vacancy from those 14 years. If you point your attention to 2007, demand at that time was at 200,000 square meters per year. And in 2008 and 9, where the global financial crisis happened, the demand in Philippine office market doubled to 400,000. We're one of the few markets that the office space did not contract and actually expanded. And this was because many companies have started to outsource more work to the Philippines. And we believe it will be the same situation for 2020. In the right hand of the screen, the broken lines represent what demand and vacancy would be if the POGOs did not expand or did not take space in 2016. In 2017, without POGO, we would have been left with 1 million square meters of vacant space. So the POGO saved the office market from entering an oversupply during the last 4 years of the market. Next. So just to point the picture on the POGO, we know it's a controversial topic and there are different points of view when it comes to POGO. But in terms of real estate, they are now 1.8 million square meters of office. That's about 12% of the entire office market. They have maybe 1.5 or 2 times more for residential, and Roy will be talking about that later. And a lot of the challenges that we've been hearing, we've been reading, is more on collection of paying the right taxes. And our answer to that is really more of, if we can enforce these laws better, then I think we should be able to sustain the POGO market as opposed to just having them leave the Philippines or leave the office altogether. Because we believe that we will need the POGO in order to sustain the growth in the office market and at the same time in residential. Next. Next. Next slide, please. So just to finish up on my part of the presentation, we want to talk about REITs. So in the REITs, as many of you know, is another opportunity for the average person to invest outside of the stock market. So the REIT law has already been passed 10 years ago, but most of the regulatory framework has been resolved recently. Ayala just a few days ago came out with their press release that they will push through with their A-REIT. And what we wanted to depict here was that the Philippines is one of the largest office markets and retail markets. Next, please. There's about 30 million square meters of both office and mall in the Philippines. And we are one of very few markets that can say that there are that much in terms of square meterage. That gives us a lot of runway when the REITs come on board. Once Ayala participates, we believe that the other developers will do the same. And it's something to look forward to be able to own a property that's income generating and that pays dividends regularly. With that, I'll turn it over to Roy to just go through the residential slides.
Next. Good afternoon. Yeah, so 2019 was one of the best years for residential. About 80,000 units were sold. So that's about 33% more versus 2018. In quarter one 2020, we also experienced strong sales, about 13,000 units sold. So that's in Metro Manila. But since ECQ, so that's starting March 16, we have no visibility on any primary sale. With regards to pricing, developers haven't dropped their prices except for tactical discounts. So what does tactical mean? During the ECQ period, they offer between 5 to 15% discount. Whether they're gonna continue with it, we'll know soon. However, for the residential market, what we need to have a close watch on is the impact of the lockdown on the OFWs, basically the remittances, the BPO market, and the POGO. Now, the POGO is composed of two parts. No, the first one would be the employee who rents residential space, and the other one would be the investors, most of whom are also mainland Chinese. So many of the mainland Chinese buy by the floor, and they rent out to the employees, to the POGO employees. Now, in terms of supply, what we're seeing is a shrinking supply. Basically because of two reasons. Number one is the lockdown has stopped construction. So obviously, there's no movement on site. And the next one would be the developers themselves, the large developers, have cut down on their planned expenditures. So they have either stopped or delayed project launches. Now, in 2020, what we're seeing is there's fear and uncertainty. So this will definitely have an effect on the residential sales take-up. People are reluctant to let go of money. Number one, because residential investment is quite a high-value investment. And number two, the uncertainty and fear, the natural reaction of people will be to save and be ready. So what's happened to developers is that they have delayed launches. So any new planned projects are put on hold and are adopting a wait-and-see attitude. However, for existing units that they have for sale, they are pushing it online. And also they are lowering monthly amortization, making it more affordable or easier to purchase. In terms of pricing, so we're seeing price freezes from large developers, but the small developers may need to offer further discounts. Now, in terms of geography, where do we invest? We recommend Makati or BGC as the safest areas to invest in, primarily because these are the two main financial districts of the Philippines. And if you can afford, you can buy in the high-end subdivisions because of the limited supply. So land is a finite asset. So there's only a limited supply of these lots. So what we're seeing is that you buy real estate in times like today for capital preservation. Next slide, please. Now, what we're seeing here is we are going to see a large drop of sales take-up for this year. Especially right now, people cannot, or brokers cannot really go out and show properties to buyers. Next slide, please. And if we see on the left side of the slide, so upcoming 2020, so there are about 37,000 units that have been launched and are available in the market today. And in all likelihood, these are the new units that will be the ones left for the rest of the year, as most developers will not be launching any new projects. Now, in comparison, in 2019, about 77,000 units were introduced in the market, and in 2018, about 60 plus thousand units. Okay, so aside from the delay in construction, the uncertainty and fear prevails. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are we seeing in the market? There is a confidence shock, both on the developers and the investor side. So for the large-scale investors, what they're trying to do is to balance their investment and probably will start selling some of their non-core assets to go to cash. Being liquid in uncertain times is always a good thing. Now, for developers, they have had a very bad first quarter 2019 sales performance. So they rightly so have reduced capital expenditures. So if we see here, SMDC about 60 to 80% down for the quarter, DMCI about 85% down, Ayala about 39% down, and they said that capex will be pared down by 36%. Now, Torre Lorenzo also 50 to 60% down. Next slide, please. Okay, in terms of pricing, it's too early to see any price movement today, as we are still in ECQ. There is really no price discovery. So the prices that the sellers want are pre-COVID, but the buyers are likely going to be looking for post-COVID discounted prices. So we're not seeing any price movement yet. As the ECQ or the lockdown stretches, then we will probably see some movement on that side as sellers will be pressured to liquefy. So large developers with good balance sheets will maintain prices. Small developers who are highly leveraged will likely offer discounts. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of rents, again, we're also not seeing any rent increases in residential units. The Bayanihan Act that was enacted by the government allows for at least a 30-day grace period for tenants. So that will be up soon as our lockdown ends. By then, we'll probably also see movement. But in any case, the highest rents now today are in the Bay Area in Alabang. And that's basically because of the POGO tenants. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are developers doing now? They are starting to adjust to the situation. They're offering flexible payment schemes, extending payment terms plus 3 months, low down payments of 10%, maybe 20%. They have also reserved now, pay later, or lower monthly amortization. No price increases and more online visibility. So the bottom bars are the discounts given by developers today during ECQ. So we're seeing from 5 to 15% discount on primary units being sold. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are the pillars of real estate? So we have OFW, BPO, and POGO. Now, the remittances for 2019 amounted to about 30.1 billion that passed through our banking system, which grew 44% versus 2018. The BSP or Bangko Sentral is seeing a growth of 2%. Still a growth. However, the World Bank and Economic Planning California are looking at between 13 to 20% decrease. There is what we call a counter-cyclicality or counter cycle of remittances. What does that mean? In times of dire need or danger for families in the Philippines, what happens is relatives abroad tend to send more remittances. So what happened in 2002 and 2004 during SARS, remittances actually grew 33%. during the Asian financial crisis in 97 to 99, remittances actually grew by 33% also. And during the global financial crisis in 07 and 09, the remittances grew by 13 to 14%. So I'm more leaning towards the 2% growth that BSP is advocating. Next slide, please. Okay, so IPPM operations. So today, about 40 to 50% are operating. The rest are on floating status. Now, the longer that the ECQ extends and if BPOs continue to not operate, then we will see pressure on rentals in residential. That's about 600,000 to 700,000 beds that may not have a income to pay. Next slide, please. And also what's looming are the lost jobs nationwide. So today there are about 2 million that have lost their jobs nationwide, according to Golez. About 1.4 million of those are displaced due to temporary closure, and about 600,000 are reduced income. Okay, so again, what we're seeing is the longer we extend the ECQ, the pressure on income and also on rents for residential will get worse. Next slide, please. And POGO. So like as Mikko mentioned earlier, there are about 1.6 to 1.8 million square meters of residential space, or about 450,000 beds that these employees of POGO operations are occupying today. That's about 36 billion a year that goes into the residential market. Again, if ECQ is extended and POGOs cannot operate, it will have a huge impact on the rental market of residential. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to my last two slides. In terms of investment, the prices are holding. So these are the price increases that have been ongoing since 2010. So if you can see the residences at Greenbelt, about 132%, Rizal Tower, 230%. So these are the capital value appreciations you're going to see for residential investment, albeit high end. Next slide, please. And now, talking about high-end subdivisions, there are about 24,000 prime residential lots in Metro Manila, only with a 12 million population. So these are diamonds that you would have to aspire for or hold on to if you have it. And look at the price appreciation of about 400%, 500%. In investment, these would be stores of value. They may drop, but eventually always recover because there are only a limited supply of land in Metro Manila. And I think that's my last slide for the residential portion. I'd just like to say, though, that I think in this COVID situation, we just have to realize that we will need to coexist with the virus in the meantime until a vaccine or a cure is found. Now, how fast we can recover depends on our adaptation to the situation safely and how we can overcome our fear. So there will have to be behavioral changes and also the acceptance that we're not coming back to a normal world that we were. And I guess the last slide will be Mikko.
Yeah, next slide. Just to wrap up the presentation in 5 key points. One is that we believe that BPOs will continue to expand and they'll still be the largest office occupier in the Philippines, but will need support in terms of having more PEZA zones in the country. 12 months ago, or a little bit, maybe 12 to 15 months ago, the government has released a memo that they won't be granting PEZA zones in Metro Manila and only in the province, but will need, hopefully that could be revisited and we can get more PEZA zones in Manila. Second is the POGOs will continue to expand as soon as the lockdown has been lifted. The REITs will be a proven defensive play, and we believe that once we recover from this COVID crisis, then many developers will look to raise capital, and REIT would be one of the avenues to do that. And the residential pricing is holding at the moment, but we'll really have to pay attention on what will happen in the next few weeks and months. With that, we'd like to again say thank you for having Roy and myself today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Miko and Roy, for those very,
Insightful.
Yes.
Dahil ko natutunan doon, ha?
Granularized.
Very
Yan. That's the term I'm looking for. Granularized insights.
Yeah.
AKA detailed. Very detailed. O, di ba?
Very
Yan ang mga nakukuha ko pag kinakausap ko si Miko every year for management. Di ba? Galing. Very, kasi again, guys, and girls, baka sabihin, feminista tayo. Guys and girls, when you talk about the real estate market kasi, iba-ibang segment yan. So, there's the residential segment ng real estate market, there's the office, there's the mall segment, meron pang hotel, saka manufacturing segment, no? So, when you talk about real estate, think about these 5 different segments. And even sa residential, meron pa yung vertical, tapos meron pang horizontal. Vertical will be the condos, horizontal yung mga villages. Tapos pagdating sa vertical, meron ka pa yung mga high-rise, mid-rise, tapos may mga different price points pa dyan, no? So, yeah, masalimutan real estate. But yeah, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for giving us a very granular view of the real estate market. So, mukhang everything's still looking up sa real estate market, and it's a good time to, if they're considering buying, so it's a good time. Medyo flattish lang for the year, nakita ko, pero parang stock market lang yan, di ba? You buy at a discount, right? So I think we can already answer some questions, no, from our participants in the chat.
From our viewers, no. Sige, so unahin natin ito kay Ketamine.
Parang gamot. Di ba gamot yung ketamine?
Hindi, actually, yan. Anyway, watching from Tarlac, sir, for long term, like 10 years, ano mas maganda? REITs or MP2 Pag-ibig? So, given yung MP2 Pag-ibig for the past several years, mga 5 to 7, 5 to 7% annually, no? Siguro, the question is, will the REITs perform better for the next 10 years? What do you think?
So if you take, let's say, the Ayala REIT, yung A REIT, it's a combination of different office buildings, no? And most of those office buildings are fully leased and are enjoying really rates that are above market for some are within market. And I think the nice thing about REITs is the dividends that it pays. So in a year, the developers will need to dividend 90% of that REIT. So as an investor, at least you're able to get some cash going every year. I guess the difference between the stock markets is that the appreciation of the capital appreciation piece of it, but here is more the recurring income that you get out of the REIT. And on a developer's point of view naman, siguro the benefit for them is, instead of listing in the stock exchange, it's one way for them to also bundle properties in order to have a price discovery for certain assets, and it's one way to raise capital outside of debt, of borrowing, and outside of listing. There are quite a number of permutations and benefits depending if you're a developer or you're an investor. Si Roy might wanna add anything there.
Yeah, basically REITs are liquid real estate. So you have a capital value appreciation for the assets that the companies hold. At the same time, you can liquidate it or liquefy it in the REIT market. basically the stock exchange. And at the same time, I think some REITs even distribute their income monthly, a certain portion, and then the rest annually. So it's like owning a portion of an apartment or a portion of a mall, where in the future the land values and will increase, but at the same time it gives you income. That's the advantage of the REIT. And if big companies are introducing these REITs, then you can be assured that this will be managed well.
So I think it's really not practical to just compare two types of investments. Yung REITs is a different type of asset as compared to sa MP2 ng pag-ibig. And of course, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, ano ba yung kailangan mo? And ano yung financial goals mo? And which among these investments will help you achieve your financial goals?
Yeah, kasi for REITs may capital appreciation ka pa eh. So yung ininvest mo, lumalaki pa in value. Sa pag-ibig kasi hindi naman lumalaki yung value ng inano mong pera. So nagdi-dividend ka lang. So sa REITs you have your capital appreciation, tapos you also have in some cases even a monthly income. So kung naghahanap si Ketamin ng monthly income o monthly cash flow, then he or she should look at REITs definitely. What's the indicative dividend as ng A-REITs, ng Ayala REITs? As they run the figures.
Roy?
Yeah, do we have like a indicative?
I'm not aware yet.
Okay.
Wala pa.
Look at the valuation, but how they value the leases, but I haven't seen the target.
Right.
Return. Yeah.
Okay.
Ito, sabi ni Lyra, one of the most affected in this pandemic ay yung mga rental property. So worth it pa po ba na maging passive income ang mga paupahan? Yan.
Yeah, well, depends on your outlook. What we have really is a health situation, a health crisis that I think the stock market is pricing in as a V recovery more than a U or an L. Even abroad, even in the US, they're really looking at it as a V-shaped recovery. Now, if the health issue can be resolved, then definitely real estate rental or passive income in real estate will still look good. Now, it depends now on where you bought your property, what location, what building, what condo, what type. But yeah, now if this health issue extends, then I guess the target should be to be cash, because the longer it stretches, then the more cash you need to survive. It becomes a survival issue.
Siguro, just to add, what we believe would also be a nice I think the opportunity now on investing in townships will now be more than before. And during the pandemic, most of us realized how important it is to actually be close to the mall or to be close to a retail center. And instead of being standalone in some place where you need to drive 15 to 20 minutes to just buy bread. So the township model has now really been, I think, an eye-opener for many investors when they now look into property. When the time comes that they look into investing into the condo market, they look at whether it's mixed-use development with retail, with office, with hotel, with residential. So that I believe that model will continue to flourish because of what's happening today.
All right.
Sige. Next question.
Maricel? Sige.
Yeah. Ay po, okay po ba bumili ng mga foreclosed na house or foreclosed properties?
Again, it depends on location and what you intend to do with the property. Is it a fixer-upper where you get it, fix it up, and then sell it to flip, or to live in, or to rent out. But definitely, I think real estate is always a good investment, but I suppose it depends on how you build up your wealth. So as you're starting off, then maybe you can start with. I would recommend stocks. So you build up your capital, and then when you can start affording real estate, then that's the time that you buy that house. Now, in today's situation, maybe we have to see that the health issue is resolved, and that because it's not only the health, the economy took a large hit, and we're not seeing that yet because we're all too focused on the virus, the media, and everything. It's all about the virus. And then at the back of our mind, and then all the economic managers, the government are talking about the economy. Siyempre, how bad will it be? Will it be the same as the global financial crisis or the Asian financial crisis? Probably. So, if you want to buy a foreclosed house, maybe you should wait another 2 years. Because if it's going to be as bad as the 2008 or 1997 crisis, we might get into a mortgage crisis situation where a lot of the homes that are bought on loan might pile up with the banks and have to go through the PDIC and become SPABs and start selling for cents to the dollar. So, likely not yet now.
Yeah. Yeah. Sige.
Adriel.
Next question, no? Kailani Tupas, can you give me some tips on how to choose the right spot? End unit ba or inner unit? This is pertaining to buying condos.
Condos siguro, yes.
Siguro just to personally, I think the number one thing that you have to look at is the location of where the condo is and see what the demand is for that particular location. If you're looking for that particular, if you're looking at the property to be rented out, then if there's a offices close by, then you have a catchment already of regular workers that can rent out your condo. Second is, the developer track record will still be very important. You go with the big, so of course some of the big developers will give you most of the upside and the protection, especially when it comes to the situations such as where we are today. So you might be spending a little bit more, but at least you're protecting yourself in the long run. I guess that's just something we want to share with you in terms of selecting the right property when it comes to condominium.
Yeah, tama. No, kahit na sobrang mura na nabili mong property pero wala ka namang market doon.
Yeah.
Yes, di ba? So, it's
Actually, Sir Nico, tanong lang regarding end units and inner units. Will yung floor affect the price? Let's say, compare buying an end unit or inner unit sa 27th floor versus buying the same, let's say, inner unit or end unit in a 5th floor. Will it be different in terms of pricing, or there will be a disparity?
I think it's good to look at the most fundamental is, let's say, the shape of the unit, no? So the more square the unit is, the more flexible you can be when you design or you come in and you want to fit out the space. Second is how the importance of really the windows, no, having sunlight come in, because those are kahit gaano kaganda yung condo, if you design it really nice, that's one thing you can never change. You can never in the middle of living there, install windows and have the sunlight come in. Third is really the view. You have to be conscious of what's coming up next to you. Some people will say na matagal pa yan, it's 5 years down the road before someone develops, but on how fast construction nowadays, you can never be too sure that they might just be able to, they might just block your view in the next 5 years. So in terms of just looking at those fundamental parts of real estate, the space, and even the right size, because you have to also purchase the right size of the unit that you can attract the right market. So if it's more for families, then of course you'll have to get a unit much larger than getting a one bedroom or a studio. So that really depends on you mix and match and try to understand what you really want to be able to do with that property.
Yeah. Sige. Thank
Although,
you for
if I may, if it's just a question of middle or end, the more saleable will be the end tune. Because the understanding will have windows on two sides. If it's an end unit, right?
Okay.
Also, it's more private. Now, if it's an end unit beside the elevator, maybe not.
Yes.
Ayan.
Yeah.
So, Lainey, I hope that clarifies it. No? Sige. Marami kasi tanong. Sige,
Sabi
let's
ni
move.
Jovin, yes.
Me and my partner got a unit around Boni Station. It will turn over in 2024. Yung tanong niya is, are we going to continue investing in real estate since may pandemic ngayon?
Depende siguro sa goal nila, no?
Oo. 2024 pa kasi. So like, 4 years pa yung turnover. So, ano ba yung purpose ng real estate ngayon? Diba? Is it an investment or will you move in there?
But siguro what we can ask is what can they see when it comes dun sa Boni Station area? Ano bang real estate outlook or development that we can expect to happen in that area?
That's di ba? That's the Mandaluyong area.
Yeah.
There's a lot of projects also going in there. So, what do you think ba? Should they invest in just in
That
case, or should
area?
they invest in that area or diversify? Diversify into other perhaps upcoming areas as well.
If I were to choose, I'd go Makati Fringe or BGC Fringe because they are the financial districts, the primary financial districts. However, Boni is also a good location because there are call centers around that, especially along Pioneer area. So it's getting populated already by a lot of employers. Now, whether they stop investing in real estate depends really on their financial plan for when they go on with their life. For example, if it were me, I would let's say have a 6 to 1 year of buffer fund to live off on when it's freed already. When I have that, then I can start investing. And if I can invest in real estate, why not? But then if it were me personally, after having that cash stash as an emergency fund, I'd go to stocks. And then when I've, let's say, whatever ratio I choose, then I'll go to real estate. Real estate will keep value. So that will be my end goal, to accumulate as much of passive income real estate as a kumbaga retirement plan.
I understand also that there's a bridge being built from BGC going to area
Ortigas yata.
Ano ba yun?
Yes, there's a
Boni rin, right?
correct. It's I believe it's a Santa Monica Bridge.
Yes.
Connecting Bonifacio to Pasig. So what will take 45 minutes will take 12 minutes for those that are coming from Pasig all the way to Bonifacio. And si Mega World, together with the government, is building a SkyTrain in the Guadalupe area to bring people to Bonifacio, to Uptown. So it will only, from Guadalupe, it will take you, it's one stop to the Uptown in Bonifacio, will take you 5 to 10 minutes. So I think it's good to follow all these infrastructure projects and road projects to understand, the opportunities in investing in real estate around them, and how it will unlock a lot of the value of properties once they've finished.
So siguro kay Jovi, parang tingnan mo kung saan babagsak yung tulay. I've had the opportunity to talk with former Finance Secretary Bobby De Ocampo. And then sabi niya nga is pag sa real estate, you just follow the infrastructure. Tulad ng sinabi ni Miko, just hit me. Sabi niya, just follow the infrastructure where the roads are built, kung saan nagtatayo ng train line, etc. Then tatas ang value ng property along those infrastructure. So follow the road and follow the trade lines.
All right.
Yeah.
Ito may tanong si Jeffrey. Why would someone invest in real estate now and sell later if there will be new built condos with the same price as your property? Parang ang hirap ibenta. What do you think?
Really good question.
The way I understand it, I think this is when you say invest in pre-selling until the condo is delivered, let's say 3 years or 4 years hence. So you have the opportunity to pay it over that period, the down payment, and then take it out on a bank loan in the future. But the new built condo will be 4 years hence also, right? So hindi sila magkasabay. Pagkaintindi ko. So that you would have your unit, and then the other building will also have their units 4 years
in the future.
Yeah. So yung benta naman kasi it depends on market situation in that area. So if the demand is high because there's a new BPO or a new office building or a new mall around that area or new infrastructure, then you would have gained some income already by selling through capital appreciation.
If you look at some of the developments, for example, in Rockwell, yung bago nila, the Proscenium, when they launched it 7 years ago, Roy, it was at 180,000 pesos per square. It was expensive for that time, but the last transaction before COVID was about 400,000 pesos per square meter. And some of the unit owners didn't have to live on it. They just had to hold it for 5 years, and they were able to get 2.5 times their investment.
Yes.
So there is an opportunity to really be able to invest in early, especially if you can, even though if you will borrow, as long as the interest rates are fair. And like today, we've been seeing the interest rates go down. And it's a supply and demand. And if you're, again, you will also want to be able to trust the developer you're investing with that they will finish the project. But that's also very important.
Yes, location pa rin talaga, no? And follow kung ano yung outlook on that particular area.
Yeah.
Ito maganda tong tanong ni Romero. So when you talk about the pivot of multinational companies away from China, how much of that will be in manufacturing, or will it include it, or just POGOs and BPOs? So thanks and more power, sabi ni Romero.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, there were articles that have been out that many of the Chinese manufacturing companies have been looking out to the close to Asia Pacific or Southeast Asia to relocate some of their sites, and we believe that unfortunately they will bypass the Philippines in terms of manufacturing, only because of the difficulty of actually setting up a business here. And just doing business is also very hard. They will go to Vietnam, they will go to Laos, but the opportunities that we see is more on the customer service in the BPO front. So the multinational companies in China will want to put up a business continuity center outside of China in case something similar to today happens again. They can redivert most of that work somewhere else. And now that we have at least the labor pool coming from the POGO, that's a start. But I think the interesting thing here is that when they start really expanding, this will be a different profile of also Chinese mainlanders from the POGO industry.
The way I understand the manufacturing is there are 3 main reasons. Number one, the supply side ecosystem is not there. Unlike Vietnam or Thailand, which are actually land connected to China, where China is the main market still of these manufacturing plants. Number 2, we have a high electricity cost. And number 3, our labor is very, we are activists. We are union. For better or worse, I think the manufacturers get discouraged by these things.
Alright. So may tanong si John. Sir, do you see the stock prices of properties to fall down even more till September?
Stocks to eh.
What do they? I think the stock prices of real estate properties, real estate companies right now are negative.
Really? Mm-mm.
Ikaw sa tingin mo, Renzi, what do you think?
Mute si Sir Renzi.
Nakamute siya? Bakit
Yeah.
nakamute ka? Okay. Unmute.
Yeah, so ang flavor kasi ng mga ngayon, ng mga fund managers right now I mean during this time, they're more into telcos and they're more into consumer stocks. So properties are not really their flavor right now because kasi ang fund managers naman is very opportunistic eh. So kumbaga on a tactical approach, nasa telcos muna sila ngayon, but as soon as makita nila yung inflows on the stock market prices, most especially on the stock issues, babalik din naman yan. But just for this meantime, they're just into telcos. Pero largely event and news driven ang ang market right now eh. So any news would really lift up. But I think in terms of index stocks na mga nasa real estate, then if the market recovers, then mas aakyat agad yung mga stock prices ng properties, most especially that those are the ones na nakalista sa index. But expect more volatility down the road and sideways ang market even with a downward bias. But of course, as we always say, if you're really looking into the long term, then you see it as a discount, as an opportunity to buy. Most especially, since sa nakikita ko, if they're issuing rates, then these real estate market companies are very, very much bullish. So yeah, it's an opportunity for you to buy paunti-unti pagdating dito sa stock market.
Right.
Prices.
May clarification si Jeffrey for 7 p.m. Ang ibig sabihin ko po sa tanong ko, kung bibili ako ng condo ngayon at after 5 years, let's say 5 years, ibebenta ko siya. Kung ako yung buyer, bakit ko siya bibilhin? Luma na siya compared to other newer condos. I think yun yung clarification niya sa earlier question.
Well, I think yun nga yung mga bagong lalabas that time, assuming na ano pa lang siya, pre-selling. So, hindi rin siya readily available. So, I don't know. Siguro depende sa property. Kasi a lot of developments, lalo sa mga condo, before pa mag-start yung construction or before pa siya mag-turnover, sold out na rin talaga yung mga units no? I don't know. So, let's ask si Sir Roy, ano ba yung ano?
It depends on the project itself, location, and the developer. For example, again, proscenium. So if you had bought it at 180,000 and then 5 years you sell it at, I think during ECQ may nabenta 315. Or that was ECQ period already. And then there's another one at I forgot the price, thereabouts. So gumagalaw pa naman ang secondary market ngayon. But are end user buyers because the units are for turnover. So kumbaga katapos ng construction. While the new buildings are being sold at in proscenium, there are 7 buildings at Amico, or 6 buildings. Are being sold at 230 to 380 primary units, hindi yan secondary. So if I was an end user buyer and hindi naman nagamit itong unit, it's not really luma, but it's in a prime location with a good neighborhood, excellent property management, and you're living among aspirational people. So
That's right.
a lot of factors actually. It's like a versus I think versus others.
Just to add, no, if you look at, let's say, Bonifacio, Global City, for example, many don't realize that in the next 4 years or so, Bonifacio will be fully developed. Maliit lang ang Bonifacio compared to the entirety of Taguig. So if you buy a unit today, kahit na that unit is already ready for occupancy, if you hold that unit for the next 5 years, you can be certain on the capital appreciation. And at the same time, when you buy it, you can borrow against your unit. You can find a tenant that will pretty much cover your amortization cost. So you're holding the unit, and then by a certain period of time, you can cash out by the spread on the capital appreciation. But you have to also look at those things in terms of scarcity. Kahit yung Rockwell, as pointed out by Roy, yung Proscenium is probably the last project that they have in Rockwell Center. And many say that it's very difficult, even for Rockwell, to replicate Rockwell Center. Parang very unique yung nagawa nila doon. So we just need to look for those opportunities in the market and understand what we're investing in.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. Sige. Let's move.
Itong tanong ni Pawi, Pawism, no? Do you foresee surplus of condominiums in the next 5 to 10 years? How will this affect condominium prices after the pandemic?
Yeah. 6:35. Nakamute si Miko.
Nakamute si Sir Roy. Wait.
Hi, Miko. Alright,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Unlikely because developers have really stopped launches as of today. So they're gonna be waiting it out until a certainty of a growth trend before they would, kumbaga, bago sila tumaya sa 3 billion, 5 billion na building, titingnan muna nila. Tumataas na ba yung market? Safe na ba? Makakabenta na ba kami? Because of health reasons, because there's no more fear, but there will be pent-up demand. Imagine 5 years of no movement. Say mo na 3 years of no movement in real estate. So we are a very young demographic. If I'm not mistaken, 67% belong to the millennials and the Gen Z. So that is a huge market moving up the ladder who can soon afford to buy their own homes. So I'm pretty optimistic that there will be still significant demand, especially for the Philippines.
And I think interesting, no, most of them now will also try to revisit the design of many of their buildings, how to adapt to this new normal, as many people have been saying. What would the buyers want to purchase? Will it now need more of a safety component added into the development? So a lot of these are now factors that they're studying, that they're considering, especially those that haven't been launched yet. There's still a way for them to adjust and to pivot to what they believe will be what the buyers will want by the time.
Ito, tanong ni Saturnino, what is your outlook for Mindanao real estate, CDO or Davao?
Oh, interesting yan, ha?
Actually,
CDO. Lalo na sa Adriel. Nasa
sa CDO.
Right now, there's like a boom in the BPO industry. Kasi maraming call centers at malls na put up dito in the past 5 years. But moving forward, ano daw yung outlook namin dito? And of course, the
Miko, maybe you should...
Sige, just to, I guess to share, there was a point in time, siguro before what happened in the Marawi siege, that Davao was actually picking up as a destination for the BPOs and other businesses. They were able to see that as a place where they can hire talent, that they can scale. But we have to remember, kasi many of these call centers are US-based. So when martial law was casted back in that Marawi, it was also very difficult for the US clients to, turn a blind eye into what was happening. And many of them, the upper management will also, there will be some, iba kasi, siyempre some of them, wala sila dito. So the way they interpret news is also very different, and the way they perceive it. And unfortunately, the perception in some places is that even though Davao and CDO are safe, is what Mindanao, isa lang yan, that's just one. So those are some stigmas that I think and challenges that we'll need to overcome for us to be able to contain and expand the BPO market in these provinces and really give more jobs in the in those places. No.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a perception issue for the BPO tenants.
May mga travel ban pa actually yung iba. Some of the US companies, their executives may parang travel ban. They can't travel to Mindanao or in these places. So naka-red alert, at least in the past. Medyo syempre ngayon, it's not the same situation, but it takes time before they can again revisit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sige. Let's move. Kay Dr. Baker, can you really use a property which is still being paid through a bank financing as a collateral to take another loan?
Depende siguro kung gaano siya ka-close doon sa bank manager. But normally ba, ano bang experience niyo?
For as long as the property is in your name, which is now collateral to the bank, and paying, so it's what you call a real estate mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like for example, if I live in a house, I bought it from somebody, I took out a loan to buy it. So yeah, it's actually common.
But for example, I'm still paying for a unit, tapos I can use it as collateral to take out another loan. Is that a common practice?
Okay, so it's a secondary loan.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think the first lender will allow an additional annotation to the property. I think it's common in the States, but not quite yet common here.
Mm-hmm. Even if the title is already turned over or something, hindi.
The question kasi is, will the second lender allow himself to be secondary to the first lender?
Yeah.
It's a seniority to the loan.
Yeah.
But if the second lender will say, yeah, why not? They'll just annotate the title.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Wait. Naglalag.
Naglalag ka.
Sige. Next question. Kay naglalag tayo. Kay Melton Teros, do you see residential prices going down for 6:58 p.m.?
Yes. Ano?
Yeah.
Do you see residential prices going down further? I think this is the complete question. Kasi OFW seamen and cruise ships have been laying off people. Yeah, so will that have an effect on the residential property prices? No? Yes.
Yeah, tapos in line with that, because marami nag-lay off, will commercial-based demand go lower because they're expecting work from home as the new normal. So in relation to this.
Yeah. So let's answer the first part first. Where do they see the prices of residential properties going? Given yung mga OFWs no? Sila yung mga mahilig bumili ng mga residential properties are getting laid off. So what do you think, guys?
Sila na yung
you're gonna start seeing that maybe 16, 18, 24 months from today when all of these when the affected mortgages will start to be released into the market.
Mm-hmm.
The price decreases will come from the smaller developers who will need to produce cash flow or cannot support themselves or complete their project. The big developers will likely hold on to the prices, but they will stretch the payments into smaller monthly amounts because it's really not a matter of margin but affordability. So any OFW will still probably get some income somewhere. So if you shrink the monthly amortization low enough, that keeps the account alive. How much
alright.
farther? It's difficult to say today.
Itong follow-up niya, another question, if work from home will be the new normal, don't you think commercial space will not have a demand?
Yeah. Siguro there's a debate going on now whether feasible ba ang work from home or hindi. I think the best way for us to answer that is to look at it on a local setting. Kasi if you look at the US, many of them say that companies are forcing their employees to go to work from home. The reality is in the Philippines, if you look at 70% of the workforce, will not have the luxury of having a home that's conducive enough for them to work into. So siguro to just elaborate on that, yung very basic things like insulation, roofing, air conditioning. Imagine how hot it is nowadays. A lot of people don't have air conditioning, and that's the truth of the matter, no? So as many want to be able to adjust to it, the challenge is that right now in the Philippine setting, it's not possible. Maybe it's possible sa upper middle class above. When you talk about middle managers or upper managers, they can adjust to work from home, but many others will have difficulty. Second is a lot of companies still have very serious data privacy laws. So some of these BPOs before, when they were operating, you can't even bring your cell phone in your workstation. You can't even bring pen and paper. What more if you brought your work home, you brought your laptop home, and that really is a very big risk for the company in terms of the data protection, lalo na kung finance company, they're a bank, credit card, or healthcare, a lot of the data that they need to keep confidentially. And third, what we found out lately also is apparently yung mga equipment pala na yan, when you bring it home, because of the heat, it actually also naluluma siya ng mas mabilis. It's so some of the equipment really needs to be in a setting where it's for it to be to sustain it for a longer period of time. So maraming challenges right now kasi we were forced into that situation, but we believe that eventually ang mangyayari is we will go back to the office. It might take some time because of social distancing. But the challenge is not everyone can do work from home. The sad reality is.
Yeah.
Especially kapag may internet problems.
Yung isa pa, ang internet problems.
At saka
Di ba rin
even with some offices kasi, maski na they might be downsizing kasi work from home, pero dahil they need social distancing, so kailangan pa rin nila ng malaking space.
Yeah.
Kailangan tinitirad na angle din. So you really cannot downsize.
If you look at the US, yung average house nila is bigger and less people. Tayo kasi average house or condo is smaller with more people. So it's very dense. It's hard to compare. We have to look at it really locally to be able to, if it's something that we can pivot to or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So may home maintenance question si Dexter. Ayan. Yeah. Sir, anong magandang insurance ang kunin for problem like pipe burst na problema sa ibang unit due to fault sa unit mo? Ayan. I think nasa condo siya, no? Pag ganyan.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that, but I will probably ask my admin for suggestions.
Yeah.
Contractor normally has a guarantee of I think 15 years. So if the pipe burst was because of poor workmanship or material, baka they can go to. Well, I guess they have to go to the admin first.
Yeah.
To determine who the contractor was, the developer and then the contractor.
Yeah, that's why we also would like to emphasize, when buying property, you also try to buy it from reputable developers na may mga track record para alam mo na quality yung property na nabibili mo at madali silang kausapin also if things like this happen so that they can provide good customer service also and support Kasi may mga nakakausap kasi akong mga OFWs. Sometimes they ask me kung okay ba tong property na to, na parang out of nowhere, first time ko narinig yung name ng developer. I tell them na before you even look at the property, you have to look into the company first, the developer. Sino ba yan? Ano ba yung mga past projects niya? And if you can even visit yung mga past projects niya and ask the residents there, their experience, kung kamusta ba yung dito, property management to. Kasi of course, a lot of OFWs, they don't really have time to do the due diligence. So I tell them na i-force mo yung mga kamag-anak mo dyan to go to their office, no? Kasi sometimes I know some shady real estate developers, they target the OFW market, they go abroad, they sell these properties na alam mo, ang pangit naman pala ng location, ang pangit ng quality ng workmanship, no? So I think that's something that especially the OFWs who are watching us now should consider when they're buying properties.
I remember this case sa may bandang Espanya, near this particular school. Parang, I don't know kung natayo or na-complete yung condo project near that school, pero that brings to mind those cases. So be very prudent and research tayo.
Yeah. Check yung yan, yung track record ng mga developers kung okay or hindi. Yun lang sinasabi namin.
Ito, marami akong friends na nag-Airbnb eh. So, in relation to that, yung tanong ni Raymond, do you think short-term rentals like Airbnbs will not gonna be in favor till we've passed the new normal?
Actually, sila, di ba? Airbnb, nag-layoff.
Nag-layoff nga sila,
So, it was a difficult decision nga din sa CEO. So,
yeah.
I
guess ang Airbnb is more on a tourist sector more than the real estate sector. However, I know a lot of people who have been buying condo units, real estate property for the purpose of making money from short-term rentals. Not just Airbnb, pero yung mga short-term. And siguro, ako, personal opinion ko is it will be one of the last things that will take off because it will come along with tourism. Yeah. But what do you guys think?
Recently yung mga hotels here in the Philippines tsaka yung mga dorms have also shifted in terms of the demand kung sino yung, di ba, hotels you stay for a day or for 3 days. Ngayon, because of the guidelines that were released also by the IATF sa mga call centers, they can only operate if they're within 2 kilometers. Yung employees nila are within 2 kilometers distance to the office. So a lot of the BPOs have actually started renting a lot of these hotels, a lot of these dorms for 1 year. Matagal yun. That's a long time. And not only the BPOs but also the embassies. So there is some demand happening, especially if you're in the CBD. And you're close to a lot of these offices. I think that's a nice pivot for some of them. But of course, they won't be able to charge the same amount as they would have if it was before pre-COVID.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Tapos going back to what Sir Fitz mentioned, I think it would depend really talaga yung tourism. But not only tourism, but yung mga events. When I mean events like roadshows, conventions, mga band events, on how fast they would recover and how fast they would schedule these events. Because yan kasi yung typical market ng Airbnb. Yung movement of people from one event to another or in tourism in general. So, yun yung most likely the last thing that would occur.
All right. So, napansin ko 7:25 na tayo. Siguro
ang bilis ng oras.
wala man lang nagpagtak sa atin. Ng
real estate. Actually, kung napansin nyo, real estate questions
na to.
Yeah. So siguro last 2 questions. Sige, Adriel, sino bang magandang sagutin dito na?
Ito maganda yung tanong ni Romero Dangoy.
Actually, siya ngayong next ko. Kay Romero.
This one?
Yeah. By the way,
tanong to.
the government is to send people to the provinces, how will it affect the prices of real estate in Makati or NCR? Pang last check ko, 10,000 pa lang ata nag-apply. Though I'm not sure now. But anyway, let's say people from NCR na galing probinsya, bumalik sa probinsya nila, how would it affect yung real estate property or real estate landscape ng Makati or yung CBDs natin dito?
Maybe I can answer that question two levels. The first is normally people move out to the provinces if there are jobs. So that's the biggest hurdle. Kung wala naman silang trabaho doon, ba't sila aalis ng Metro Manila? Okay, so if government can do that successfully, okay, what will happen to Makati or NCR prices? I don't know, it's been percolating in my mind that when I read that EDSA can only accommodate 2 million passengers a day. Now, there are about 4 to 5 million workers from outside Metro Manila who converge to the city. In Makati, there's only 500,000 population. But during the day, it hits about a million and a half. So, I don't know if it's going to be like a situation where there might be actually new demand inside the city in or near Makati areas for a kumbaga, second home in the meantime. The travel is difficult. If you don't have a car, you cannot commute. How can you get to work? If it was the same as today, the prices will still hold. Only because even if you send people out to the provinces, there will still be job creation in the city. Tuloy-tuloy lang naman yan. It will have to be a massive movement of people outside.
So
for it to affect prices.
We don't think there will be a massive an exodus of people, no?
Yeah.
But I think it would be good pa actually, no, sa NCR, because we will probably parang have lighter traffic, a little bit lighter traffic, so yeah, less density lang, no? But I don't think it will have a really massive effect on the demand and on the real estate prices.
And siguro,
Yeah.
sorry, just to add lang
Yes.
to Roy's point, actually that's been happening already in the past 10 years, no, when the BPO industry has been expanding outside of Metro Manila. Nasa Cebu, nasa Iloilo, nasa Bacolod, and some of them were started in Manila working there because they didn't have jobs in those places. But when the BPO started to flourish there, gusto na rin nila umuwi because they want to be with their families. But the opportunity has to be there, and that's one. And a lot of these BPOs still retain their operations in Manila, which is their HQ or their hubs. It's just more of an expansion to these places. Instead of it being an inverted pyramid, na lumipat sila, nag-migrate sila to NCR. From NCR.
Yeah, and to add to that, no, you would have really to look into the infrastructure of the provinces as well. Kasi like for example sa Manila, how many airports do you have here? So kumbaga in terms of business, tourists, and then business persons going into Manila, ano yung capacity ng provinces to have such, airports pa lang, ang dami na sa Manila, di ba? So if you go for example in Cebu or Davao, can they handle the same air traffic as well? And then of course tinan natin, the ports here in Manila are big, although arguably Batangas also has a big port there. But yeah, and then of course yung mga road infrastructure, road network. So I think that Manila would have to stay as the kasi 'di ba, correct me if I'm right, Miko, and Sir Roy, pero sa China in terms of real estate prices, nangunguna pa rin ng Hong Kong, right? And then of course Shanghai would also be there, but with the rise of other cosmopolitan cities in China, but still Hong Kong and Shanghai still commands the top spot. So tama ba?
Right.
Yeah.
Alright. So, special mention kay Israel na nagbigay ng 49 pesos.
Yay! Salamat.
At saka,
Salamat sa ayuda.
Kaya kay Meg
Ayun.
na nagpagsak ng 190 yen na super sticker.
Thank you. Salamat po sa ayuda.
Ayan. So,
Kaya
ayan.
ba tayo for next month? Yung
Yes.
premium account.
So, siguro ito last question na.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kay
yes,
Emerson
yes.
Ramos. Kay Emerson Ramos.
Kay Emerson.
Notice that there are a number of condos na pasalo, meaning yung original owner currently nagbabayad ng down payment. Any advice can give to buyers to smoothing transaction?
Are you familiar with this? Ako, it's the first time that I heard about
Ako
it.
din. Yung pasalo
May
na pasalo.
nagbabayad. Someone is paying for down payment.
Number of condos.
Siguro we can have this one as one video for this one, no? Yung mga
I'll ask my friends who are more active in the real estate investing and the condos, so kung ano ba yung exact mechanics nitong sinasabi ni Emerson. I think it's an interesting that we can look into. Ito na lang ang pinaka-last na question natin kay August. Any tips that we should consider on investing sa REITs, no?
Yeah.
Yung,
Very good last question.
top 3 things that they should think about when they want to invest in REITs.
Siguro sa akin would be, number 1, the developer track record is important. Tsaka yung asset class. So if we know that the office market is doing well and the REIT that's being listed is a portfolio of office assets that are income generating, then you are betting on a good investment. So those are things that I think we should look out for. Yung A-REIT ni Ayala is something that we should pay attention to when we start investing hopefully in the latter part of 2020.
Ang alam ko lang kasi yung REIT ng Ayala, meron pa bang iba that will be coming up?
At alam ko the big developers have also started to look into it last year or early this year, sila the big names. But si Ayala is nangunguna in terms of at least already planning to list.
Kasi inisip ko baka mamaya maging kapareho siya nung ETF, no exchange traded fund. When First Metro launched it, some analysts are saying that other companies will follow, pero how many years have passed? Nag-iisa pa rin siyang ETF in the market right now, no? So I guess it would be an advantage for Ayala to be the first REIT to come out, and then if ever hopefully other companies will also have their own REITs, no? So I guess that's it, no? We would like to thank everyone who joined us.
Thank you, salamat, thank you.
Salamat, no? And again, please invite our viewers to visit your website and your Facebook page. And ano ba yung mga pwede nilang ilapit sa inyo, Roy and Miko? Ano ba yung mga real estate concerns that they can ask help from sa inyo?
Siguro just to start, no, we'll also circulate the presentation. So kung sino man may gusto ng copy, we can send it to you. Then maybe you can share it with the people watching today.
Yes.
We do everything end-to-end real estate, whether it be office, whether it be residential, whether it be industrial. So all asset class we cover. Si Roy also does more on the research and the valuation also side.
So if they want to get in touch with you, where can they go? Can they just go to your website or message you on Facebook?
Both are fine. Yeah.
All right. Sige. Renzi, what can you say?
So thank you very much, Miko and Roy. So we hope to have you again. Okay, in another cycle.
Hopefully post-pandemic, post-pandemic real estate outlook.
When things are more exciting, di ba? Ngayon, medyo value ano tayo. Value discovery tayo ngayon. So, yeah,
Yes.
thank you. We hope guys and girls no na you pick up a thing or so about real estate market. The outlook is very, very good, very, very detailed, and we hope na it gives you more outlook on how we see real estate and greater view. Yeah.
All right. So, in behalf of Renzi and Adriel, and of course, our guest today, si Sir Roy, tsaka si Sir Nico, we would like to thank everyone who watched. And of course, kung may na-skip kayo or late kayo dumating, you can just wait for a few minutes and then watch the replay of this video. And if you want a copy of the presentation, you can just email us sa admin@wealtharki.com, and then I probably will share it with you. So, thank you. And again, see you next week. Thursday.
Sino guest para natin next week? Meron ba tayong guest next week? Para sa mga...
Alam ko, may guest ulit tayo, si Jess yata. Tama ba?
Yes.
And our topic about
global investing and insurance globally. Hashtag the global investor yung guest natin.
Global investing, alright. Sige.
Global investing. And nakapila din si Edric Mendoza for home selling naman. Ano yan?
So, thank you and good evening. And
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renzi. Thank you.
Thanks,
Stay safe, guys.
Yes.